Oh! Damn, Hippie Dewey. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? I'm Brunelle. We're here at MLK Skate Park. I was just getting the legs warmed up, as you guys saw earlier. And in today's video, we're going to talk about airing over hips and everything that goes with airing over hips, to boosting airs over hips, taking them wide, taking them small, just floating over them. Hips are a huge part of bowl skating and transition skating, and learning how to do them will improve anyone's skating. So a huge part to learning how to skate hips and learning how to get airs over hips is your takeoff point. And what I mean by your takeoff point is the point at which you go off the hip. You know, you want to go right off the hip at the coping, at the top of it. You know, you don't want to go too early or too under the coping, because then you're not going to go over the coping. And you don't want to go too far back here, because then you take chance of hanging up and not making it back into the other side of the hip, which is right here. So your takeoff point is huge. You want to make sure you kind of eye up where you're going to take off before you do take off. So once I can understand where a good takeoff point is when skating hips, the next thing I need to do to catch good air or catch floaters over the hips is to find a good popping point. You can either pop by just bonking your wheels off the coping, or you can ollie before off the transition, or scrape your tail, like I've mentioned in other videos, scrape your tail and ollie off the coping. Those are three different ways to, catch air when skating a hip. Even if the hip has an extension or a larger quarter pipe and you're airing into a smaller quarter pipe, you can still go off the coping and land in the transition of the other one. You might have to air farther to catch the transition of the other one, kind of like this one behind me, or you're just gonna have to grab and not pull out as hard, okay? Not pull it towards you. Now you kind of just grab and guide with your shoulders where you want to land. Let me show you guys a few. Another thing that's huge when you're catching airs off hips, whether you're floating it, you're going wide, you're just going high, I'm pretty sure you all know this, but it's having speed. But with having speed, it's also with having angle. So you want to make sure your line into the hip, that you have speed going into it, and that you have a good angle. You know, if your angle is off when you're going into the hip, it's going to send you the wrong way. Hips are 45 different angles, so if you're going at the hip at the wrong angle, it's not going to send you where you want you to send it. You have to be kind of strategic when you're skating hips and bowls, because it also creates a line. I know that if I'm going to hit this front side and I'm gonna land wide. It's gonna send me around that pocket front side, and I can come back around and hit this hip again backside. So it's like little things to think about when you're skating hips. I know it's kind of sounds, you know, a little bit difficult or a little bit detailed, but that's just kind of how it goes when you're skating transition and you're skating hips and bowls and you're trying to put lines together. So I know everyone has their preferences when doing airs, especially when doing them over hips, because that's a whole nother game in itself. But doing ollies is a lot harder than doing grabs because there's a lot more board control involved and trust, you know, because you're not grabbing the board. So if you're gonna start doing the airs over hips and you're really comfortable with ollies, go for it. But I'd recommend going for grab first and working your way into ollies. Dowdy said, I'm copywriting this. Dowdy said hips are basically like kickers on the transition wall. When you're carving along, you hit the kicker and boom, catch a little air, keep going with your run.
Being that you're riding sideways on the transition. So like you're already kind of have your body sideways. So you're kind of just doing a little jump in the middle of your already sideways position. So you don't really need to adjust too much as long as you kind of like stay in the motion with the ramp, almost act like it's an invisible launch ramp into more tranny versus like thinking if there's a gap. Exactly. Or like a different radius, you know?
Makes sense. Like stay level with your board, you know? You don't want to be straight up, right? Like you're riding on flat ground, because you're not. You're riding on the wall of the transition. Stay parallel, take that kicker, boom, you just hit a hip. If the hip's mellower, if the transition on the hip does not go to vert, I'll more than likely do an ollie because it'll provide for more height and it'll kind of help me like kick out from the transition so that I can land back in the transition and not hang up on the coping. So if the quarter pipe or if the hip is a lot steeper, the quarter pipes on the hip have vert, then I'm most likely just gonna go off and bonk the coping because I have a better chance of staying to the wall, staying light on my board and landing under the coping of the other hip. So rule of thumb, if it's mellower, if it doesn't go to vert, I'm gonna ollie. And if it does go to vert, then I'm gonna go off the coping. All right guys, well that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys got some tips on how to skate hips and how to catch air when doing so. You know, angle, spotting your landing, spotting your takeoff point, sucking up your legs, and just keeping your body level is all huge points when skating hips. Just keep trying it, keep getting used to it. It's not gonna happen right away, but in time you guys will get it. As always, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already, and I'll see you guys on the next one.